my name is Tina from Quantum Healing with Tina. I'm a BQH practitioner, spirit releasement therapist, and intuitive empath. And today we're here with Karen, and we are going to talk about our year in review and all the fun things and not so fun things that happened along the way. All the magic and miracles and healing and growth and bumps in the road. So stay tuned to the end to find out how it all went down. Don't forget to like our video and share it with your friends and subscribe. Subscribe to our channel and comment down below to let us know how your year went and what you're looking forward to in 2020. Mm-hmm. Wow. I can't believe it's 2020. That's crazy. So for me, my year kind of started at the end of last year with this crazy event that happened. I had been plant-based since April of 2018, trying to heal my body using plants and
basically
plants and, you know, kind of doing my own thing using tips from the medical medium and Dr. Morse and kind of detoxing my body for the year. So I was off all dairy, all meat, all that kind of stuff. I was just doing plants and I was really missing cheese. So I decided to make some cashew cheese. And we had made it once before.
Yeah, we tried a recipe, the mac and cheese recipe, vegan mac and cheese recipe.
With cashew cheese. And it was really good. Mm-hmm. And I had no reaction to it whatsoever. I was totally fine.
That was the one recipe that we're like, okay, we're gonna try this again.
Yes.
Of all the ones that we tried. So yeah that was a bummer.
So, and I was excited to try it again because it was so easy. All you had to do was like grind the cashews up and that was it. So I did it and I put it on a salad and I ate the salad and I was laying on the couch watching YouTube or something. And all of a sudden my body started to itch, intensely itch. Like it was so crazy. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? This is not happening. Like I was in total denial because I was like terrified to go to the hospital. I have like hospital trauma from years of being chronically ill. And I will not go unless I absolutely have to go, unless I'm dying. And then all of a sudden I couldn't breathe.
That's it. You're dying.
Yeah. I was dying. Like I called my friend who lived a couple houses down and was like, I need you to come over because something's happening.
Yeah, that scared me because you actually called me and you're like, I'm not feeling well. So that already made me panic. I was like, yeah, don't worry, just go to the hospital. Don't worry about it. Even though I was like, oh my God, this is really bad. If she's saying she got to go to the hospital, it's going to be really bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. Because I started like not being able to breathe. Like I was like taking like deep breaths, you know. So what was happening was I was going into anaphylactic shock. Like I was having an anaphylactic reaction to the cashews. And by the time we got to the hospital, like my friend came right over. I thought about calling 911, but I didn't want to freak the dogs out because I'm here by myself just with my dogs. And if an ambulance would have come here, they would have totally freaked out and then I would have had to leave them. So I didn't go that route and I just called my friend and I'm like, drive me to the hospital. And by the time we got there, I jumped out of the car and ran in and I was like, somebody has to help me. Please help me, because I was like about to collapse. Like I felt my body going numb and I was literally like seconds from leaving my body. By the time they got me, they took me like right back. She took my vital signs, took me right back into the room. And I literally, once they gave me the shot of epi, I vomited all over the room. Like it was literally
cashews
everywhere. Like the aide had to like jump up onto the gurney, what was it called? The
yeah,
gurney,
like
the stretcher with me. I felt so bad. You know, here I am like dying, but I'm feeling guilty that I like just threw up on everybody. But anyway, the whole time it was happening, I felt like something bigger was happening. And I wasn't able to put it together right away because it was freaky. Like I had had cashews before. There was no reason for this reaction to happen so suddenly and so random. And
nothing's ever random.
Right, nothing's ever random. So there was a bigger reason why it was happening. And I found out what it felt like to me was, you know, afterwards, not in the moment, after I had time to think about it. It felt like a timeline shift, right? Because I had like done all of this work up till this point and like cleared all of the karma that I came to this life to clear. Like all of the contracts I had with people, I was done with. Like at that point, I was like done with all like the first half of my life. And I knew I was moving into a new half of my life, a new timeline per se. And what I realized later was that was a potential exit point for me. That if my life was still going as it had been, which was, I suffered a lot. I had tons of lessons to go through. I had lots of loss. You know, I lost my parents, my grandparents, a lot of other people around me. I suffered with addictions and depression and anxiety and PTSD, like all of that stuff. I spent the first, chronic illness, pain, just a bunch of crap. And so I spent the first part of my life really like tying up all those loose ends and like kind of being done with that and working on healing myself. So that specific point in time was a potential exit point. Like if things were still going badly, I could have checked out at that point and went back to spirit. But because they weren't going so badly anymore, and I had like been tying up those loose ends and healing all of that.
She stayed for me.
I stayed. Yeah, because I had things to look forward to now. Like I felt like I was starting a new life. Like this second half of my life was going to be like mission oriented. Like I'm here to help the others, like that are going through what I went through the first half of my life. Like all of those human things and purging and healing all of those human things that we go through, the lessons we come here to learn. So I felt like this, at this point in my life, this half of my life, I was, you know, had a real purpose behind it. And so I chose to stick around, stick around a little longer to help the others. But yeah, that was a really crazy experience. And after that, everything opened up for me. Like people used to say all the time, like, remember who you are. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm doing. But I didn't realize the depth of what that really meant. And after this incident, like right after, I started coming across all these people that had experienced NDEs. And that to me, I made the correlation, like that almost was an NDE. Like I was seconds from actually having, it was like an almost NDE, right?
Yeah.
But even though it wasn't, you know, most people will have an NDE and stay in that space for a little while, have that experience of the other side, and then they will make their decision to come back. But I didn't need that because I had already, before it even happened, I had already knew that I was going to stay and I was going to live out this second part of my life and had a purpose for it, you know. So I didn't need the full experience, but it still for me was like an almost NDE. It was a potential exit point.
So you love Earth.
I love it so much. Yeah, I guess deep down I really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, everything just opened up for me. I had people showing up in my life that were like, you know, this one guy, he reached out to me and he said he was from Lemuria. Like he talked about Lemuria and the Pleiadians and all of this kind of stuff. I came across Shakina Rose, who also had an NDE, who was from the Blu-ray, and that got me looking into like, well, who am I really? Like, I thought I knew who I was, but do I really? And that's when I started looking like way back into ancient history and where we came from as humans, and finding out who I am. And I did have, you know, a resonance with Lemuria, and especially the Pleiadians. And you know, I say to people now, after a year of like going through this journey, when you feel that resonance with something, it's not for no reason. Like, there's always that reason behind it. It's not random, because sometimes you can think it's just random, but it's really not. Like, those things are, you're resonant with those things because that's who you are, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that opened up all of this
magic
new
stuff.
Magic. Yeah, it was like new magic.
Oh yeah, that was your awakening to the magic, no?
That was my awakening to the magic.
Oh,
yeah, because up until that point, I really didn't experience magic like you had with spirit.
And then we switched.
Right.
I became human and you experienced magic.
Yeah. That's what that's what that was all about. I was experiencing the magic, and I was even like seeing fairies outside my back window. I was seeing ships in the sky and having visits from spirit. All of these cool things were happening. And I just felt like I was just getting more and more expansive, you know. And then Karen was visiting.
Now we're talking about that now.
So this is the not so fun stuff. This is why twin flame relationships can be so difficult, and people just can't hack it and they run or whatever. Yeah, because it's tough to look at yourself, and
especially from your partner, who's, you know, you want them to see the best in you, and then they see like the yucky stuff, and I'm getting hot thinking about it. You know, like, it's so embarrassing just to think about it. Like, ugh.
Yeah, so here I am on this high, right? I'm like, I'm in 5D, like hanging out with the fairies. Like, look at these ships. She's here this weekend. And I'm like, come on, look at this ship. Like, I'm dragging her outside to go look at the stars. And she wants nothing to do with it.
I wanted a relationship. I wanted her. And
right.
It was like, but prior to that, let's talk about why I was like this. I had an experience with a friend. We'll call her Molly here. Right? Is that what we decided? Molly? Yeah. So we had an incident where she really triggered something hard in me. Like, it just, I don't know. How do you explain that?
Well, I feel like she drug your vibration back down.
Yeah. It went to a very low vibration, and it took me to what felt like an old timeline. Back into the 3D. I was like vibing on my 5D, went back to the 3D. And so I come visit her, not knowing that this traumatic event had carried on with me. I thought I was like, okay, you know, F her, gonna go visit her now, so gonna have a good time. But no, we weren't even on the same page. Like, it felt like two different worlds, where I came to see you,
yeah,
and I wanted her, and then she was telling me like, look, let's look at the moon, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, two totally different pages. Like, I was super excited to show her the magic of the fairies and the UFOs and the stars and all these connections I was making, and super excited to share that with her. And she was just totally somewhere else. And I really didn't even realize it in the moment. It was a short visit, because that was your thing with that time anxiety. She's like, we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. Like, she just wanted me like this. And yeah, so after she left, I was like, what was that about? What just happened?
Right.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then she confronted me about it, about how it felt very toxic.
Narky.
Yeah, narky and toxic. And I was like, oh man. It's fudge, man. Yeah, no, it was really bad. So I had to look at that and really explore. And I went down into like a downward spiral. after that. So she mirrored that in me, and then I had to go look inward and be like, what happened?
Right. But the amazing thing about you is that you don't reflect it back to me, or you don't project it back onto me. You will go inward and look at it and, you know, ask the right questions of why this is happening.
It took a practice for me to do that. So, I mean, like, I knew the process, you know, like as you see in the other videos of on triggers, but yeah, I knew the process that I had to do, but it was really bad because I felt like I had gone deep into like this abyss again. It felt like the depression that I had gone into like a couple years prior to that. So I was like, okay, I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know where to start because I thought I was on a high. And from that lesson on, I also had to learn that I had to check in with myself often enough to make sure that I was okay. You know, that's what we tend to forget. When we keep riding that high, we don't check in to see, are we really okay? And that was one thing that I had to learn from that. But yeah, so that was February. So what happened, it was a big month for me. So she had her awakening like 2 months prior, I guess, with the magic stuff. Mm-hmm. Or it all started in February, the magic, right?
Well, it started after.
It started to ripple effect from there. Yeah, so I was in a dark place and, you know, in my bedroom in the dark, where I cope. And I was talking out loud very desperately, and to the point where I said out loud, I'm like, God, where are you? And then I heard a voice saying, I'm right here. And I was like, and then I realized that it was him, which was really cool because like it was the first time that I wasn't expecting a response that loud and that didn't feel like my own voice. It was something else. So I started on this conversation. So I did have my own conversation with God, which was really cool. And he stuck with me for a week, I think, or it was a little longer. I still have conversation with him, but it was really profound for me because he took the time with me and really asked me for two things. He asked me to focus on, I guess, well, he taught me how to focus and how to commit to myself. And through that, like, I was able to really experience, again, magic in, you know, by exploring my dimensions, because I used to, you know, daydream all the time. And he explained to me all my daydreams and how, you know, what I was creating. I was actually creating something. What I learned was, like, people who, you know, actually astral travel can actually astral travel to dimensions that I've created through my daydreams.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, whatever. So he would talk to me all the time. I would drive to work and I would be talking out loud. I'm like, so, like, what are we going to do today? You know? And what do I need to do? Like, how do I look at myself? Like, what more can I do? Like, I thought I was done this set of healing. Like, what was that where she and I were in a separation point where I had to, I don't know. That was a hard time because it was like, I think we went on a break or something, like a little short one, like a tiny one. But
yeah,
it was like
maybe a day. It wasn't that long.
It was long for me, you know, especially when you're like that down, you know, because for me, when I get down on myself, like I really beat myself up. Yeah. That was another learning point. Like I had to stop beating myself up
because things. You felt like you were going backwards. Like
I was regressing.
Because at that point you had thought, oh, I'm totally healed now.
Yeah, like, so confident. Like
you were like, I'm totally healed now.
I'm good. I'm in my new earth.
I did all this work. I'm all healed.
That's what it felt like. But yeah, but then it was a huge slap in the face.
And I'm never gonna have to do any of this again.
No, it was like I'm not going back to that painful spot anymore. Like it was too hard. And then to face it again and even 10 times harder because, you know, obviously my ego was present and like, no, you're not healed completely, but I mean, we're never really healed completely, but it was just a lot easier for me to navigate.
That's the spiral.
But it was longer. So from that point, it was really like, how long was that spiral? Like for me to feel that low, it was 3 years. So, I mean, that was a really good run for like not to feel that darkness. So anyway, I had like a lot of meditations. God asked me to do this specific meditation. So I was guided to go find a specific meditation on, I think it was binaural beats on YouTube or something. So it was only 22 minutes long, so it was perfect. It was just enough time, like during my breaks. He was very specific about it. Like, this is a good one. You're gonna like this one. And so I would go in, and we would go for like different journeys, like really cool things. I mean, there was one time, I'm just gonna go into like a tiny detail about it, but like I was running into the universe, and then I jumped and I landed and grabbed hold of a dolphin in the universe and we went for a ride, like those kind of things. And he was there watching me create, and he wanted me to experience that magic again, to not lose, or lose myself in the human part, because that's not who we are. So I mean, like, by that timeline shift, by bringing me back into 3D, it was like bringing me back into that density and forgetting who I really was. And that, from that on, like point on, like I was able to open up through these meditations with him. It took me to Egypt, where I was able to explore these really cool things about the pyramids and the divine feminine and other women with the sacred sites in Egypt.
Tell them about that, because that was really cool.
It's a really long story, but I mean, to make a long story short, I was a goddess in Egypt, ancient Egypt. And yeah, my body was a piece of like a map that held all the sacred sites. So it was me and several other women. So when our bodies were like together, it would shift, and you would see the maps of where the sites were.
Like Maui from Moana.
Yes, it was exactly like that. It moved exactly like that. So, yeah, we went into inner earth in this meditation, and I was able to go to this goddess temple with all the women, and we were really connected to Gaia. And yeah, so the other thing that came up was this man. I don't know who he was. He looked like Jafar to me, and he wanted what's it called? He wanted the maps to these sites. I think he thought it was a physical map, like a piece of paper on a scroll, and I refused to give it. And he actually ended up killing my lover, a bird lady, who was her, and left her head on my my porch or something. It was like on the balcony of my palace or something. And so I called him out and I said, yeah, I'll give you the maps if you want them. So he came to meet me next to the pyramids, and yeah, I got really large in this blue, like my body just became massive. I guess why we're referring so much to Aladdin, but it was like a huge genie type, like large. And I asked him, I go, is it you who wants to claim to know, like, who built the pyramids and who, the holder of the sacred sites? And he's like, yes. And I took off the capstone off the pyramid and I squashed him, killed him. And I was like, that's right, killed my lover. So, and then I took off the capstone and I cleaned it off and I put it back on, and I felt so much remorse and guilt and pain. Yeah, a lot of that, because like, even though like it felt good to kill him, it brought out more of my ego, which was kind of parallel to that month. Mm-hmm. Forgetting who I am. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I had to tell all the women to scurry off because I did something bad. And to to protect the maps that were on our bodies. And I ended up like leaving and going into hiding. So yeah, that was that 22-minute meditation. Yeah, that was only 22 minutes, and I saw all of that in great detail. And yeah, and also the next day after that, I was able to do another meditation where I went back to Sirius. So I knew I was from Sirius from the old meditation that I did before, but I never felt that, like I never went back there. So I did a meditation and I was brought back there, and that later ties into the session that we had talked about, my first session with Tena and BQH, where I went back to Sirius, and it was the exact same place where I had landed, but not in as much detail as the session with her. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was like really magical. What I learned from that month, just that month, was really the purging of was it divine masculine?
That old toxic masculine.
Yeah, the old toxic masculine, and I had to get rid of all of that crap, like just to get my priorities straight, go back to myself, go back inward, stop. Whatever was not serving me or the people that I loved, and yeah, come back to myself.
Well, that whole month too, I was just looking back on my notes, I was having toxic masculine dreams, like how the toxic masculine shows up in my life, and those controlling and manipulative, lying like relationships that I've had all my life. They were showing up in my dreams over and over and over again, but it was like each dream I got closer and closer to standing up for myself and putting them in their place. And part of that thing for us was about me standing up for myself and being able to say, no, I'm not accepting this anymore. This doesn't belong on my timeline anymore. Like, this is stuff I'm leaving behind.
And it's either you come with me or you stay where you are.
Right. And yeah, so that I was purging all that too. I was purging all that through my dreams, and finally by the end of that purge, I was standing up for myself, like in the actual dreams. So yeah, I do a lot of work in my dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's next? It's March. It's Lori.
Oh yeah. So March. Wait, a lot of other magic stuff happened in February too. The Arcturians were showing up for me for healing, although their healing was a little bit too intense for me at that time. My body wasn't ready for it. So I think that's why they backed off, because I realized they weren't coming anymore. But then I had my session with Lori Ladd, who is an amazing ascension coach here on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram. If you need an ascension coach, she's awesome. She's super grounded.
And she's great at explaining everything and easy for everyone to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's super grounded and down to earth. Although, you know, she speaks to star beings, but she brings it down and grounds it. But I had a session with her, and the Pleiadians showed up. They said they've been guiding me, and the Syrians were there, but in the background. And she didn't really know why the Syrians were in the background, but they were there, probably because of her. I know I have some kind of Syrian tie if I'm with you. I always felt a stronger tie to the Pleiadians and Arcturians.
She's Pleiadian.
Yeah. But in that session with Lori, so what came up was
you're in a plateau right now. You are in a plateau and you're healing, like with the food and everything. So you're just kind of like, okay, now what? Right.
Like I had gotten so far with the plant-based diet, and I was like at a plateau. So I'm like, okay, now what? And so I had this session, and she hit it right on the nose, on the head. On the head? Is that how you say it?
I got it.
Nail on the head.
I get what you're saying.
So yeah, she knew. Like, she's just like, you've been doing a lot of healing, and I'm like, yeah, I've been doing a lot of healing, and it's not working anymore. It's just not, like, I felt like I was struggling for years, and I was only getting so far. And what they said was, the Pleiadians, they said it's all trauma. It's just all trauma stuck in your body like sludge. And so what they recommended was that I just lay down when I needed to, instead of trying to push through it all the time, to really lay down and ask for help, to ask them to help me and allow them in. Because I had been doing that, but I guess they were having trouble getting in because my body is so dense and contracted. And what they explained was, I feel so shitty when the light waves are coming in, because the light waves cause my body to contract, because the ego wants to protect itself, right? It wants to protect you. So it's like, no, I'm not letting go of this stuff. It's just trying to hold on to it so that the light doesn't open you up. And that's just what the ego does. It's always trying to keep you safe, even if it's not to your benefit. But yeah, so it was about really opening up and allowing them in and asking for help and understanding that I don't have a disease or a chronic illness, or I had already not been putting a name to it. Like, you know, I was diagnosed with all kinds of things: lupus, fibromyalgia, endometriosis. What else? Degenerative disc disease. Lyme, mixed connective tissue disease. I had already stopped putting labels on it because I'm like, that's not good, because we buy into that and identify with it and all of that. So I'd already not been doing that, but they, you know, reiterated just, it's not a disease. It's not something you need to identify with. It's just trauma stuck in your body. It's just like thick, sticky sludge in there. And if you just lie down and allow us to work with you, we will move that trauma out of your body. And the craziest thing is, 3 days before my session with Lori, I started to feel like this energy running through my body. It was like little twitches.
Oh, that's when it started?
3 days before that session, yes. And she was like, well, great. That sounds like they're already working with you. I'm like, yeah, they must be, because I can feel it. It felt like when your muscles jump or twitch, and it was just like mostly in my legs. And she also said, well, but that's great, because by the time it gets through your legs, that's like the last part, because they work top down. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, great. Like, let's do this, because that's an easy thing to do. Just lie down and let them help you move the trauma out. You know, I don't really have to do much more than that. So that's what I did. Every single day I lay down, I opened my crown, I asked them to come in and move out the trauma. And I really worked hard on that from March through the whole summer. That's really what I was focused on. And yeah, so that was that. And what else did we say? Oh, she did say, she said, I wouldn't be surprised that in 6 months you don't even recognize yourself in your body anymore, even like your weight. And she was totally spot on.
Yeah, because it's till September.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
It just
naturally
fell off.
It just naturally fell off of me. Well, one, because my diet changed. Yes, that's part of it. But two, because the trauma was moved out too. It's so funny, because when I finally realized that I didn't have that chronic pain anymore, I wasn't feeling the twitches anymore. It was like everything kind of culminated and it just moved out of my body.
That's so amazing.
That's a miracle.
Yeah.
That is fucking magic. I was chronically ill my whole entire life since I was 13 years old. It's gone. For the most part. Yeah, I still have a painful day here and there, but
nothing compared to what it was.
Nothing compared to, even in the summertime I was struggling. And it's so funny how it happens so gradually that you don't even realize it's happening. Like, I just recently, within the past month, realized that I don't have the pain like I used to have it. Like, it happened so gradually over the last 6 months.
So good.
I know. It's so good. It's just, another thing for me was, so in March I had that session with Lori with the Pleiadians. And then in May I had an aura session with Aurora from Rising Phoenix Aurora. And in that session, this was like a regression session, like a BQH or QHHT, but it's a different technique where they use the angels and some energy work to help move the energy, clear your body. Because I know I had a lot of crap in my body. Mm-hmm. Even besides the trauma, I knew I had this feeling I had attachments, right? Because there's no way I could have been through all of that in my life and not picked up some attachment somewhere. But here's the thing, like I had listened to all these spiritual teachers who were like, you know, well, you get what you believe in, basically. You know, and if you believe you have a spirit attachment, then you have a spirit attachment. So I'm like, well,
no, that's just being resonating. Like when you resonate with something, then you can't deny.
Right. But in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't want to believe that then, you know? So I'm like, well, I don't believe that. But I feel like as light workers, we can't deny that there's darkness. Like we can't just
what's the point of the light then?
What's the point of the light? Exactly.
You're light working for the darkness to bring darkness to light.
Right.
Duh.
But I really struggled with that belief, like because it's so pounded into us. Well, if you believe that, then yeah, you get whatever you believe. So I was really struggling with that, and finally, I'm like, you know what?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. That can't be true. If there's light, there is dark. That's just the duality of the world we live in. We don't live in 5D yet. And even in 5D, there's negativity. 5D is not all fucking love and light and like, you know, they're floating around in their spirit bodies. No, they still have physical bodies. And they still deal with some duality there. So that's just why you laughing at me.
No, because it's like, I keep thinking about the spiritual community and how they're just so on this 5D journey, like going to New Earth, and it's like, well, have you looked at yourself a little bit? Have you healed yourself slightly? You know, just a little bit?
Yeah.
Because you can't just jump there and then didn't learn anything.
Right. It's about the journey, and it's about facing your darkness and looking in those deep, dark corners. And if you have a spirit attachment, no matter what it is, it has to be looked at and removed. It's not just going to go away. There's another line of thought that if you raise your vibration high enough, they'll just fall off of you, right? I think that's partially true. However, it's hard to raise your vibration when you got these things attached to you. How are you going to raise your, and that's another thing I was kind of at a plateau where I couldn't raise my vibration any higher because I felt like something kept pulling me back. It was just like every time I got somewhere, it was like, whoop, pulling me right back.
Present.
Stop.
That's true.
Yeah, so finally I was like, you know what? Aurora I just happened to come across Aurora on YouTube, which nothing is by accident. It was a really cool sync, and I started watching her videos, and I'm like, I have to have one of these sessions. So I booked a session with her, and it was really cool. It was a really cool session. I saw myself, so I landed in the desert in Egypt, and then there was this landing pad, and a ship came down, and 3 little grays came out, and she's like, follow the grays. So I followed the grays, and they went into this pyramid, and inside the pyramid there were people lined up in capsules. It was humans inside these capsules. It looked like they were floating in water. I don't know if it was water or some kind of clear liquid, and they had wires coming out of them going to this machine.
It's like so Matrix.
Yeah. And I kept seeing this one face flash in front of me, and it was this woman with big red hair and bright green eyes. Her eyes were open in the water. She wasn't moving. It was like suspended animation. And I was like, oh my God, I think that's me.
So creepy.
Yeah, it was creepy. It's like, I think that's me. And she's like, well, what are they doing? And I wasn't getting all the information, but I'm like, I feel like they're collecting the energy from the humans, and they were storing it in this big container. They were just like collecting all this energy and storing it in this big container, I guess, for them to use. I don't know, it felt like some experiment. I felt like I was getting blocked from a lot of the information too. So in the next scene, I saw myself as a big blue bird, and I was flying in formation with my other bird friends. We were like humanoid birds, and we were stopping the negative aliens from coming into Earth. I think we were in the 7th dimension, and we were stopping like the negative alien ships from coming into Earth. And then the next scene I saw was that Earth was completely liberated. It was all like I saw the globe. It was all light. It was just like lit up with this beautiful gold light, and the humans were free, and it was all
That's
good.
New Earth.
That's New Earth.
That's New Earth.
Yeah. When it's fully liberated, like we think we're free now, but we're not. There's so much control going on Earth, which is another video. But it was super emotional for me, like to experience that. I cried a lot.
Yeah, I cry a lot too.
I cried a lot. Like that was really beautiful. And then we brought in my higher self, answered my questions, did the healing, removed the attachments. So the big attachment I had was a reptilian in my stomach, who I found out, I didn't talk about that experience I had. So I had this experience in trance where I was swinging on a hammock. I think you were there with me, and you were facing this way and I was facing that way. But I felt somebody to my right, and when I looked over, it was this handsome man, piercing blue eyes, beard, like looked like a lumberjack kind of. But I didn't trust him. I didn't trust what he looked like, and I asked him to take his mask off. And what he did was he unzipped himself, like, and the human facade fell away, and he was like a light body underneath, a white light body, but I still didn't trust it. And I was like, what are you doing here? And he said that they send me low vibrational people to keep my vibe down so that I can't do my light work, which was part of what I was feeling, that pullback all the time. Like something was just kept pulling me back and kept pulling me back, and I was falling into these low vibrations when I was vulnerable with the chronic illness and the pain all the time. And then when that would happen, these people in my life, who did we call them? Fred,
Susie and Bob.
Susie and Bob. We'll call them Fred, Susie, and Bob, but they are real. They would come in, like flock to me, like it was the weirdest thing. But they really truly were like energy vampires.
Yeah, they came always at the same time, always when she was vulnerable, always when she felt really sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would always come around.
Yeah, and they
at the same time.
At the same time, right. And these people didn't add anything to my life. They just took from me. And that was a theme throughout my life, was people just taking from me all the time, you know. But part of that was me learning to stand up for myself and not take that anymore, and empowering myself to place boundaries with people and not letting them step over them. And the craziest thing was, so what I found out in that session was that guy in that little trance meditation I had, he said his name was Satan, which I knew he wasn't Satan, but he was just trying to scare me. And I was like, you know, you're never gonna have my light. I'm never gonna stop being light. That's just who I am. And then in the session with Aurora, I found out that person, that being, was a reptilian, and he was actually attached to my stomach, and I had always had stomach problems. And when we removed that, the reptilian, I think he was on a ship, I don't remember, and there was also like a cluster of attachments in my lower stomach, and I've always had endometriosis and really painful periods. And after that session, you know, I believed so wholeheartedly that it was going to work and I was going to be better right after the session, and it just didn't work like that. But what did happen was those people, Fred, Bob, and Susie, they stopped coming around, right?
Yeah.
Like they just kind of disappeared from my life, and it was really amazing. Also, I stopped having like excruciating stomach pain. I stopped having periods altogether.
Lucky.
Yeah. But it was also like a gradual healing. You know, all my pain didn't go away right away. Like you think sometimes it's going to happen after your session, even when you believe so wholeheartedly, because it just doesn't work that way for humans. Like we need that time to adjust to things.
You have to believe in the process of it.
Right.
Adjustment.
And you have to believe in the body and its ability to heal. And I wholeheartedly believed in the body and its ability to heal. I just knew it was going to take a little bit of time. And it did. So yeah, that was the two major things I took away from that session. Was those, the people fading away and getting rid of that reptilian in my stomach allowed that to happen. And I didn't feel like that pullback anymore. I just kept like raising in vibration. What else from that? Oh yeah, and then was it that week that you healed my stomach pain? Or before the session or after the session?
Maybe it was after, like you had maybe something that was probably not relative. It was just something you were eating because you're still sensitive to food at that point.
I was still very sensitive.
Yeah,
to food.
She usually eats bad stuff when I'm around, so we ate bad stuff, and it affected her. So she had really bad stomach pain.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that
really bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. You were like crying.
Yeah.
She never cries. Well, never. Not for pain at least.
Not for pain.
Yeah. So it was really bad, and so I don't know what was. God was still with me at that point, so He was also telling me like put your hand on the belly. So I did that, and He told me to put my other hand under. And He was saying to me, He's like, just tell her to say thank you. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to tell her to do that right now, God, because she's kind of like really upset right now. And it was making me anxious because she was crying. So I was just like, let me just do it for her, because, you know, I need proof. I'm like, let me just do it for her and see. So I was just like telling the pain, thank you for coming.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I opened my eyes. I guess I just knew whatever, I don't know what I was doing, was done. And she was looking at me like the pain was gone from her face. And she's like, it's gone. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Right. So that was like the beginning part for me to start or realizing my healing capabilities. So yeah, that was...
And trusting yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That was huge too. Not being able to trust that I could do it. Even though I knew I could do things like that, but you know, obviously you don't... Yeah, you just don't trust yourself.
You just don't trust yourself, right?
No.
And that's really what holds us back, is the trust in ourselves. It's always what's holding us back. We know we have the ability. We just never fully trust it until we have physical proof like that.
Mm-hmm. That was fast. It was really quick.
Yeah.
My intention was there. That's the thing, you know, that's what we also learned later on in sessions or the channeling with the Syrian Light Council, is that intention is everything. So, I mean, I see her in pain. It was easier for me to set an intention because I didn't want her to be in pain. So it was easy for me to just be like, please take it away. Like, it's going to be gone. It's gone. It's going. Thank you. Thank you. And then it was gone.
Well, I think your intention was so strong because it was so... I think that was the cause of my stomach pain, was to show you how you could heal.
Right.
Because there was really no other reason for it.
Just gluten's another part, but something else.
There was really, I hadn't had stomach pain like that. I don't think ever, to the point where I cried.
Right.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's horrible.
So I think it was really to show, to allow you to have an intention strong enough to where you could do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So magic. And now she's doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Practicing all the time.
Practicing, yeah. Practice. So if you want something, just message us.
Yeah. She's amazing.
So what's next? Oh yeah, so July came and she finished her BQH.
I finally finished BQH. I had signed up the year before, but I felt a resistance to doing it. I think mostly because I had a lot to learn, and I learned so much over that year, especially after like my almost near-death experience. Like everything just opened up for me, and also the magic especially, but also I was super focused on just healing my body. Like I knew if I could just get my body healed, that I would be able to do that work without the restrictions of the pain, because pain is super restricting.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, when you're in it.
Yeah. And to be able to like run a business and do sessions for people, like you can't be in pain like that. At least it's not ideal. I mean,
Right.
you can, but it's not ideal. I didn't want that. So, yeah, so then I finished it and we started doing sessions.
Yeah, so she practiced on me. Her first one. And that was the one that I talked about. Like if you look in the other videos, my first session where I went back to Sirius, which is what I talked about earlier. And yeah, that was a huge thing because like I had done a lot of healing already that year and the year before. And now I was like with my, having that relationship with God and seeing like going back to Sirius, and I was able now to be human and also to tie the other life together in one, so I could be myself, whoever, like, yeah, be me. Yeah, so it was really cool to be able to get, have conversations also with my, what do you call it? My guides over there, the light council, anytime I want.
Yeah.
We could do it right now, like anytime I want. So yeah, after that was a huge point for me because I felt like I expanded so much from all the sessions that I've done, even when we did the surrogates together. Yeah, I did a lot of surrogates. I had 3 sessions for myself, and then we did like surrogates for other people, and from that completely expanded myself and was able to easily channel, learn more like techniques about like healing and how to figure that out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything just happened to fall really into place after everything that had happened prior to that. I find like that was like the icing on the cake when you finish your certificate, and we were able to do everything from there.
Right, because at the BQH is it allows you to expand. So like you doing all those sessions, you had so much expansion in such a short period of time. And now I feel like you're now like fully anchored, Yeah. But we had another incident in August.
Yeah. That was good. Where it tied it all together again. There's always something that's tying all our stuff together. Where, yeah, you had to believe in magic, believe in your own power. Like, anyway, she'll tell you what happened, but everything just happened to all come together. We'll talk about that. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I had a bright idea. I was always investigating like new ways to heal yourself, right? And I came across this post about making
don't believe everything you see on the internet, except for us.
It was about programming your water, and you used like a blender and some magnets. It was like my little at-home scientific experiment.
She was so into it.
I was really into it, and it blew up in my face. Literally, I was spinning the water in the blender, and it exploded. It heated up, like it got so hot from the motor running that it blew. It was like a magic bullet, and it blew off and the boiling water blew all over me. Somehow missed my face except for a little bit right here, but down my chest all the way like this. So I had like,
yeah, your wrists, your hands.
my wrist.
The hands.
The craziest part, I had my hands next to it like this. And I was putting my intention into it.
Attention.
And when it blew off, the water got my wrists, both of them, and my hands. My hands were red, but after like I took my shirt off because it was soaked and like sticking to me, I went into the bathroom and I ran cold water over my hands, and I was like, oh my God, like if my hands are burned, like I literally can't do anything, right? And I was just running them under the cold water like, no, this can't be. And Karen was here, and I was like, I'm not going to the hospital. You're gonna have to heal me. So we lay down and like meditated for like ever.
Not even long. It was. She lay down. I went to go get a bag of peas or something. Like trying to figure out like how the hell are we gonna figure that, because I mean I was looking at her skin and it was starting to change, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. Like I was really calm.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God I was calm, but I was screaming in my head. But I was like, it's okay. Like we're gonna meditate. We're gonna call everybody in. So she was laying down in pain, and yeah, I did a lot of visualization. I brought my chair in there. I was sitting next to her. I did visualization, meditation, asking every benevolent light being you could think of to come. Asked the little fairies to come, and I saw them. They were there. They were like dressed in like little tiny nurse outfits with their little hats, like with the red cross on there. And yeah, I go everywhere that you need to either like heal quickly, like, or reduce the pain, something like do
my
something.
wrists were the worst, and I remember they were the most painful. And I remember when the pain started to ease up.
Yeah, it was only after 2 hours. Yeah, it was 2 hours that you were like, it's not hurting anymore. And I was like, oh my God, thank God.
Yeah.
Because that would have been really long. Like, already the 2 hours leading up to it was really long and scary. Because it's like, okay, I don't know anything about, I'm not from this country. Like, do I have to bring her to the hospital? I don't know how to fill out these forms. I don't know if her hands are, like, messed up.
My hands turned out to be completely fine.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
You got nothing on it.
Nothing. That was a miracle in itself. I don't know how that happened. Like,
right.
That was...
Yeah. It was scary. She was going into shock. And I had to, like, somehow relax through that because I could feel and I heard it in her voice that she was going into shock. And how I knew you were going into shock because you were like, you're the only one who can heal me. You have to heal me. And I was like, oh God. She's really...
That's how you knew I was going into
Yeah, I was
shock?
like, I'm going to lose her soon. Yeah, it was really bad, especially the chest area. I remember, like, you were under the sink and I had to, like, hold you from behind and put my hand on your chest just to, like, set that intention, like, stop.
Mm-hmm.
Stop going through the layers of the skin, please.
Yeah. Well, and if that thing with the stomach wouldn't have happened...
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to process because I knew that this was the healing hand. Like, this is where, you said the right hand is where it exits and this is what receives?
Right.
Giver and receiver. Yeah, so I knew that this was the hand that I had to use. Yeah. So yeah, that happened. Like, it's making me hot just thinking about it because it was so stressful. And so she had to learn a couple of things. Like, we had to, like, reflect back to see, like, why did that happen? What was the point of that?
Right. What was the point?
Yeah, so this is what we came up with. Go ahead.
There's always a lesson. Well, for me, because this happened, right? And then we had to spend the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna be here for 5 weeks. So that happened only a little bit after the first week. So I had my session, my BQH session, and then it happened just a couple of days later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let me tell you, I wouldn't have made it through that if she wasn't here, because I live alone and I don't really have any friends in the neighborhood that could take care of me.
Right.
It's just me and my dogs. And part of that lesson for me was to allow someone to take care of me, to ask for help, because I've never been good at that. At allowing anyone to take care of me or asking for help. And that I really had to like give up all.
You didn't really ask though for anything.
Right. Well, I didn't need to.
Right. Well, I mean, I already knew what to do, but it was just like, I guess if you really needed, you would have been like, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, to allow someone to take care of me. I mean, she had to bathe me. It was really bad. Like, I couldn't do anything, because once the blisters popped, it all blistered. And once the blisters popped, this was the other lesson. This one started to get infected right away. And before that, we had been doing urine therapy, because I just found out about urine therapy. So I was putting that on my burns.
We are going there.
We're going there. Put it all out there. Yeah, but once they opened, and just literally so quickly I could see the signs of infection. I'm like, oh my God, I'm really gonna have to go to the
burn unit. That's where you were going.
In my head, that's where I was going. Oh my God, they're gonna admit me to the burn unit. I can't go to the hospital. No way, I'm not going to the burn unit.
Right, and I'm like, what? I don't want to go to the burn unit. What's the burn unit? Like,
you know, I'm making up all these stories in my head about what's going to happen, right? Because I have hospital medical trauma from all of my years of being chronically ill and like refusing to want to go anymore. But I had no choice but to go. So we went to the urgent care.
Well, I think that was necessary. I mean, like, for you to like throw out all those thoughts, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Do that. I rethought, and I was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. So finally we went to urgent care, and the craziest thing
Was the sub.
Well, the craziest thing was she was eating a meatball sandwich in the waiting room.
I was coping. That's how I cope. That's why
Emotional eating.
Emotionally eating.
A big meatball sandwich in the doctor's office.
Well, she's filling out her forms next to me, and I'm like, don't worry, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, that was the craziest thing. The second craziest thing was I go in, I'm like, how am I going to explain this to these people? How am I going to explain what happened? That I was programming water and my blender exploded? They're going to think I'm crazy and probably admit me to the burn unit and the psych ward. Yeah. But here, I tell the nurse lady that comes in, I don't know if she was a nurse or a medical assistant. I'm like, yeah, you know, I was...
Just like boiling water went in your face, you know?
No, I told her about the blender, and she's like, oh my God, that happened to me. And I was like, what, really? Oh my God, thank God I'm not the only one.
She's like, oh my God, I'm not going to the
She's like, yeah, I was making raspberry pie, and it blew up on my face, and I had these burns. And I'm like, oh, thank you. You're like an angel. You made me feel so much better. And they didn't ask me any other questions after that. Then the doctor comes in, and he's like super nice. You know, all my fears about medical people being assholes were just like totally crushed. And he was super sweet and super nice and totally gay, and he was like our best friend.
Yeah, he was talking to us.
He was talking to us like how he came out, and
yeah, like telling us
because he was
story.
like, are you guys like friends or like girlfriends?
Like, you know, girlfriends.
Yeah, they were so nice. So that was my other lesson that was my asking for help from the medical profession and getting over that trauma, having to go to them and realizing that not everything can be cured naturally. That's just and you need to have balance, right? You have to go to the doctor when you have to go to the doctor. Urine therapy is not going to cure everything.
It does some things.
Yeah.
I'll save that for another video.
Yeah. When they're not acute, yeah, like chronic things, yeah, but you know, and then I was so upset because I had to take antibiotics, and I had worked so hard for a year and a half on building my gut flora, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna ruin everything. And it did for a little bit, but it was very short-lived.
The recovery was really quick.
The recovery
that
was
was
really
something
quick.
that I think you had to see too, was that you were in a really good place, like health-wise.
Right.
So that was another moment.
Right, and the other lesson in that was to physically see how amazing my body is at healing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because all of my healing has been on the inside. Like, you can't see it.
You can't see chronic illness.
You can't see chronic illness, right? You just have to trust that your body is healing. And also, it happens so gradually that it's hard to even keep track of what's healing. You just kind of wake up one day and feel better, and you're like, oh. Like,
oh yeah, I'm not in pain anymore.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so seeing that, physically seeing how quickly my body healed, because I'm like, I want to be healed by my birthday, because you planned me a surprise birthday party. And I was like, I can't go to the beach with like open wounds on me. So I had the intention to heal by then, and I was healed by then.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It was amazing. I mean, healed. Like, all my wounds were closed.
Yeah, you
completely closed.
Yeah, she didn't have to put any, like, another dressing for that day.
Yeah, for 4 weeks straight, I had to put Silvadene and dress everything twice a day or 3 times a day. It was horrible, and I couldn't do anything for myself. Like, it was just awful. It was a bad 4 weeks, and then and I made the intention to be healed by my birthday, and I was. I had just enough Silvadene too.
Yeah.
So that was another like miracle healing story.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other lesson in that?
Magic. Yeah, we have to believe in the magic of our own powers, and being able to ask everything and anything. If you need help, you just have to ask your healing team, and all the angels, they're gonna show up for you.
And the fairies.
Yeah,
the little nurse fairies.
Yeah, so cute. They were so cute.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what else? Is that it? That was August, and then now we're December. So I mean, since then we've just had sessions and trying to figure out the business side of things.
Yeah. And some of the sessions we've had have been amazing. So to tie back to the grays in that session I had with Aurora, I was feeling when I first like set up like my Facebook page and my stuff for the quantum healing business, I was feeling like a lot of interference, like from outside forces. Like every step I made, I was hitting a roadblock. And I was so frustrated. I'm like, what is going on? I don't understand this. And then that's when I asked Karen to be a surrogate for me so I could see what was going on and ask my own higher self questions. And we ended up actually having a session. It was my brother, basically. It was my connection to my brother. So he showed up in the opening scene, and there were grays in that scene. And we found out that we tracked it back, so we went back like a segment at a time each life to the original source of our connection, and how that connection like is rolling over into my reality, because we were twins in our first lifetime together, in his first lifetime on Earth, but I had been here a long time, so I had the experience already. But it was his first, he was fresh from source, and he was coming down into the womb, and I was already there. And the Greys snatched him and took something from him, like a piece of his soul or something. And so when his spirit actually made it down into the womb, I started compensating for him and transmuting his fear and sadness, and just like he was just like, this wasn't supposed to happen, how did this happen? We ended up going back and talking to his guide, Betty. Remember that?
Yeah, Betty.
Yeah.
That's true.
And Betty was so upset because she's like, this wasn't supposed to
I felt
happen.
so bad for her when I reheard it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she felt so guilty.
She felt so bad. And I was like, well, is there something we can do? Maybe we can go back and fix this
That was
timeline.
the first time she was a guide.
That was her first time as a guide. Yeah.
Lessons for Betty.
Lessons for Betty. Yeah. And so I asked her if we could somehow go back and redo that. And we did. So she, this time, guided him down into the womb. And we kind of changed the past. We found out that we had like 500 cords between us. And so the gray connection goes that the grays get to me and influence me negatively through him.
Right.
Because of our connection, and we're so closely connected that rolls over into my reality as well, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I mean, like looking at things that have happened, she'll feel something, and then she'll find out later from him that there was something, physically. Like she'll feel it physically, and then he'll confirm it for her that he's going through something with that actual specific physical pain or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, that's the other part of this too, is that I found out through doing these sessions that I am a physical empath, which I never realized before.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
I did.
I know. I knew I was an empath. I didn't know I was feeling things
I knew
physically.
That. Forgot to tell her. She didn't get the memo.
No, I didn't know that. Not in the way that...
Oh, to that extent.
Right.
No? Okay, got it.
To that extent where I'm picking up signals from my brother or my aunt who's like deathly ill and I'm having the same exact symptoms.
Yeah.
No, I never put that together. That was new for me, and understanding how to navigate that. I think a lot of my healing also has to do with that, and realizing that usually these symptoms aren't even mine.
Right. Yeah, because she's so used to being sick that, obviously she'll turn it inward and she'll just cope with it without asking the questions like, is it mine or is it not? That's what usually empaths have to do. They have to be able to ask themselves those questions about, like, if whatever they are feeling, is it relative to themselves or not, or their environment.
It's hard for a human mind to grasp that you could feel it physically. I mean, understanding how you pick up another's emotions is one thing.
I know, that was a mind fuck for me.
But understanding that you pick up on others' physical symptoms is a whole nother mind fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's even more. I mean, like, on top of it. Icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake, yeah. But the good part about that is that I can validate their pain and transmute it for them. So once I identify it's not mine and it's theirs, that's my job. It's the family channeler. Yeah. So this whole year, all of these things that have happened have led to the point now where I'm really, like, my body's like really healed now. And it's so surreal to even say that.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Because, I mean, I've seen her at really bad times. And just, like, since I've even, like, known her and talked to her, like, that's all I knew. That was, like, one of the first conversations, like, I have lupus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. What's that? And understanding the pain and everything like that. And, you know, like knowing that you're in pain, constant pain all the time, and tired. To the point now where you actually have to be like us regular people now. You actually have to be, yeah, no more excuses.
Yeah. I don't have that.
2020 is about no more excuses because she's in good health.
Yeah. Yeah, because part of an illness, you always have that excuse, like if you don't want to go to a party, you're like, oh, I don't feel good.
Just bring it on me. I'd be like, I don't want to go. I'm not dealing with that anymore.
Or whatever, it's like a secondary gain. You always have a secondary gain.
Or an exit point, like, oh, I don't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have that anymore.
You gotta cope with us regular folks eating
Yeah.
sandwiches.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been amazing. And now I really feel like, yeah, 2020 is going to be amazing because now I feel like completely free from all of that stuff I left behind in 2019.
2019 was a really good year. You know, we always see these memes where people are saying like, okay, next year's my year. I'm going to do better. We're going to lose all that weight. It's just like, just be happy. I think that's the thing. Be happy and honor yourself at every turn.
And even when shitty things happen, like everything that happened wasn't amazing this year, but when you learn even one thing from it, it makes it worth it. I mean, that, right, I could have been a really like upset and shitty over that whole burn thing, but
Yeah.
I learned so much from it, and I got to witness my body like really healing itself and the magic of that. Yeah, so, you know, things aren't always going to be perfect, but it's not necessarily going to always be better next year, you know, so.
It's all your perception.
Yeah, it's our perception of it. And, you know, looking from the outside, people probably wouldn't think I'm that successful, but I feel successful. Like, I feel like
yourself.
I healed myself.
Who could say that? Chronic illness.
Yeah.
It's not chronic.
And healing from all those diagnoses, like, just like a long list.
Yeah, she doesn't get her period anymore. What the hell?
Yeah. There's
Lucky.
probably have people out there that'll say that's unhealthy, but it's not.
She feels good.
I feel great. It's especially not for me after the, 27 years of hell that I went through.
Pain. Entities.
Yeah, pain and entities. And then the other thing we started to do is the remote spirit releasement.
That's our next venture.
That's our next venture, and that's going to be fun.
We're the Warrens.
Yeah, so if you made it this far, please comment down below and let us know what you did in 2019 and what you're looking forward to in 2020. Thanks for hanging out with us and listening to us. We hope you enjoyed it and gained something valuable. Please like our video and subscribe to the channel.
All right.
Bye. We'll see you next time.